Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Hello and welcome to the 40th episode of the Extreme Sports Performance Podcast. My name's Ryan Blake, I'm the founder and director of Extreme Sports Performance and also the host of this show. In this episode I'm speaking to Adam Lubbock, or Lubsy as he's better known as. Lubsy is a personal trainer, a gym owner and also a semi-professional comedian. In this episode we discuss the past, the present and the future of the health and fitness industry. We touch upon the normal questions that I usually ask guests, but very much focus around this subject area. I really enjoyed recording this episode with Lubsy. I'm sure you'll enjoy listening to it. Here we go. Lubsy, welcome to the Extreme Sports Performance Podcast. It is an absolute pleasure to have you on. Could you start by telling everyone who doesn't know who you are and what you do, who you are, and what you do?
Sure thing. First and foremost, thanks for having me on, Ryan.
Pleasure.
Very excited to be here and talk and converse with you. I've known you for a long time and what you do, so this is very exciting for me. So for those who don't know me, my name's Adam Lubbock, aka Lubsy, aka Lubs, basically anything other than Adam. Well, not anything. Well, sometimes people use anything, but just stick with Lubs or Lubsy, I reckon. I am basically a personal trainer first and foremost, diversifying slightly more into a general business owner now, and I run this gym that we're in right now, ADVHQ Henley, and have been doing so I've been personal training since I left school. One of the beauties of not knowing one of the beauties of being shit at school is you start thinking about future early, and I always got a kick out of sport, health, fitness and improving people. So I got stuck into it pretty early, and I've been doing that ever since. So I've been in the game for about 12 years, which is pretty long, relatively speaking. Not too many either people move on or they get bored or they get found out for being shit or whatever it is, they end up not doing it for that long.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've learned a hell of a lot along the way. Some truly valuable lessons, both to me and hopefully ones I've managed to express onto others. So I opened this place in 2017, and it was a very different looking space to the one we see now. What you can't see if you're watching this on camera is that we are in a self-storage facility. So what essentially I did was convert 4 units at the start and create a personal training space. We had 1 squat rack, a rower, some dumbbells, and it was just a windowless box, and I was just working my arse off, just young kid trying to earn an honest buck, take my career to the next level from doing the house-to-house thing that I did for many years, which is an invaluable apprenticeship, particularly through COVID, but we'll come on to that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And to be honest, it's been I believe, a really beautiful example of being patient, not settling for one marshmallow, waiting for your second, and fairly consistent, strong, organic internal growth. And I would love to have what sounds like quite a clever formula for building what we have, but it really was as simple as I had a I had a row and some dumbbells and a squat rack, and I was doing 1-to-1s, and it was going rather well. So I bought a ski erg as well, and then I could do 2-on-1s. I could charge a little more, work a little less. Well, I actually didn't work less, so I just made a bit more. And then all of a sudden I could buy an assault bike, and now I could have 3-on-1s very easily. And then once we got that, then as we were in a storage unit, I asked for 2 more units, and we filled that out quite quickly. So then I asked for 5 more units. And so on and so on and so on. So it's been quite often that it's a sort of build the thing first, then fill it. We've kind of reverse engineered it, and whatever space we've been in has been kind of bursting at the seams, and then we've expanded, to facilitate the community or the client base in which we've grown, and it's gone from there. And we're about to do I'm definitely not going to say 5th and final one, but certainly I think for the first time the space is going to represent the product. So it's really exciting, and I think the next step after that is a move of location, which I don't really want to do, or opening another one, which I also don't really want to do, because I don't feel like you have to dilute your product if you're going to replicate it. It's just as simple as that. You don't get, there's a reason why you don't get Michelin star restaurant chains, because it's impossible, but you do get McDonald's and Nando's. So if there's great, I'm sure you can get a good sweat in Bracknell F45, and you can in Dubai F45, but it's it's not the same, or whatever it is, or Barry's, or something that's been replicated. So that's what we do, and I absolutely love it. This place is my happy place. I feel like that energy transcends onto the people that come in here. I feel like it's their happy place, it's their safe place, it's somewhere that they can come and they can be with like-minded individuals. They can just be maybe not the person that they have to be outside of these 4 walls. Well, actually it's a bit of an odd shaped room, so it's more like 9 or 12 walls or whatever it is, but sure. I think it's we've managed to I think this is, to be honest, I think this is a kind of representation of where the industry is going, but we've kind of found the middle ground between all the beautiful things about personal training and really getting stuck into an individual and what makes them tick and what makes them doesn't, what makes what turns them on and what doesn't.
Yeah.
But without the cost, and also with the one thing that personal training can't provide is community. It's great that you have this connection with this one person, but it's one person. What if you can create that with 1 or 2 coaches and then 50 other people? We're social animals who are becoming more and more isolated, and we were just at breakfast, right? And I won't say his name just in case.
Healthy breakfast,
just
in case anyone was wondering.
Yeah, dead healthy, of course. Why wouldn't it be? You'd feel toilet after an unhealthy breakfast, so that'd be illogical.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
And I won't say his name, but the head chef's, he's been in hospitality his whole life, and he expressed to me that this is basically the first time in his adult life that he's had friends outside of hospitality that he gets to see every day. He comes to the gym at 7 o'clock, has his coffee for 15 minutes with them. They train, they have a good time. All the boxes are ticked. He's full. Now he can pour all day, and he recharges the next day. And it's the first time in his adult life that's ever happened. And for me, that is, I honestly couldn't ask for more. And I think there are probably other examples, but that one in particular really sort of shone out to me as
awesome.
As a real example of what's going on.
And the name ADVHQ.
ADVHQ. Yeah, look, I'd also love to have an awesome name for this. Sometimes I say it's my GCSEs, but you can't get some of those letters. You can get some of them, and I certainly did. But basically, I started my personal training business when I was 18, and of course the first thing you do is sort out the logo, because you want the t-shirts to look cool. But we were struggling for a name, and my dad said, I was also tennis coaching at the time. I was a bit of a sort of health and fitness handyman, did a bit of sports coaching in the primary school and all this sort of stuff. He said, why don't you call it Advantage? Because, you know, if they train with you, they'll be getting an advantage, and also you have an advantage in tennis, literally. And I was like, well, then we came up with the logo, the A and the V, which you might be able to see there, which is not a heart rate or a heartbeat, which some people think it is. It's not that, it's an A and a V. So Advanced Personal Training was born, and then quite quickly into my career, Twitter and social media stuff and hashtags basically came in, and couldn't be fucked to say Advantage Personal Training all day, so I abbreviated it to ADVPT, and then when we got our own castle, we called it ADVHQ. But ultimately, when you go to Apple, you're not looking for fruit, are you? So the name, it's not that important, and I would love to have a really cool story behind it, but that's all it is.
Well, thanks for that intro and that definition. I think the colour's pretty cool as well.
The pink and black is definitely, we're onto something there.
It's cool.
I don't know what I was on that day. I don't take psychedelics, but I felt like I maybe was on one, because I don't know where I came up with it. And I actually remember that back wall was, before we busted through to there, it was like the big expansion. And we had the guys coming in to install all the big pieces of kit. Big classic, big old burly, men, proper men's men, love cow's milk and the coffee, things like that. And the wall was black, and I said to them, I'm going to splat it with pink, and they were like, you're off your head, mate, that will look absolutely awful, don't do that. And anyway, we did it, and they were like, oh, do you know what, fair play, I like that, looks pretty good, that.
It does look cool. And
so it's a good bit of branding.
You would most of all of the interior design yourselves.
We came up with that. I mean, it's pretty easy to throw paint at a wall. I've gotten better at it now because we've done it a few times. And I definitely think the pink on the black sort of stands out a bit more than the black on the pink, but it's nice to have the contrast, and it's a funky little bit of branding that we're now starting to get into our range of clothes. We've got yoga mats with the splats on it. It's it's almost like it's more of an identifiable logo than the actual logo itself. So, and even though I just said I'm not really interested in opening another gym, if you were to see that in Melbourne, you'd know where you are. So
awesome,
pretty cool.
Happy days. Right, let's get stuck in then. What does health and fitness mean to you?
Well, essentially it means everything. Because without it, all of the other things that we consider to be important in life aren't possible. And I think this is a narrative that the industry itself is getting far away from, and society as a whole has been away from a long, long time. I mean, how often do we talk about health in school? We talk about, we learn how to wash our bits, and we talk about sex ed and all this sort of stuff, but how often do we actually go into it's great, you've got a good job, if you have to leave it with chronic stress, or you can't sleep at night because you've got sleep apnea because you can't breathe properly, or we don't really go into that. So it means literally everything. And when I say it means everything, it doesn't mean that it's more important to me than my wife, but I can't be a good husband if I'm not healthy. And we have this incredible disconnect between striving for things that we like and leaving this unbelievably fundamental part of the puzzle behind. And you can go extreme, and you can't go to Ibiza if you're dead. Yes, I mean, okay, obviously that's quite an extreme situation, but there is that really famous saying that if you ask a healthy man what he wants, he'll give you 1,000 things. If you give an unhealthy man what he wants, ask an unhealthy man, he'll tell you one thing. And it's a bit of a shame that we almost have to wait for it to be taken from us before we start to really appreciate it. And I think it does get confused when I say health is everything, and if you prioritise your health everything, I do think people kind of get a bit like, well, no, my mum's more important than that, my girlfriend is. I'm not saying I'm not saying you should miss their birthday to go to the gym, but what I'm saying is You want to be able to experience their birthday as your best self, and without health, which is, not entirely in our hands, you can't do that. I kind of see health as like getting burgled. No one wants to get burgled. It could happen to anyone, but at least shut your fucking front door. Maybe get some security. Maybe get a little Ring doorbell so you can hear when, do everything you can. And unfortunately, if someone really wants to get into your house, there are 20-year-old triathletes who get lung cancer, or, who terrible things happen. And there's only so much you can do, and that's just unfortunately part of life. But give yourself the best chance, because I've never met anyone who's sacrificed their health, or whose health has let them down, who's gone worth it. And I won't go into too many sort of specific examples. People can sort of come to their own conclusions, but it means everything. It means everything, and it should mean everything to everyone, because without it, we haven't really got anything.
So if someone said to you the word health,
step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
how would you define that? What would be your response? If someone said, Lovesley, what is health? What would you say to him?
I'd say that's an excellent question. I would say that first and foremost, the majority of the decisions that you make in life want to have your health at the centre of it. And of course, that's an amalgamation of things. And of course, there are trade-offs. Going to the gym is healthy, but missing your kid's birthday party to go to the gym is not healthy. So, there's lots of trade-offs. And there are an awful lot of variables to make it incredibly difficult to give it a definition. And I also, to be honest, it's interesting you say that. This is one of the reasons why we're getting further away from the message of health, because it's actually relatively subjective. I have friends who are technically unhealthier than these friends, but they're totally cool in the headspace they are. Their reality and their expectations align. They're cool with being half stone overweight or going to the gym twice a week or whatever. They're cool with it, and actually I feel like that's probably pretty healthy than someone training every day, striving for an image or a look or something that is unattainable. But so health is relatively subjective, as opposed to other things that we like to kind of subhead under health, like fat loss or muscle gain, which is objective. Not muscle gain, sorry, strength gain, which is objective. You can lose 3% body fat. You can improve your bench by 20%. And as soon as you can measure something, you can sell something. And as soon as you can sell something, you can start to make money. And that's unfortunately what this society is obsessed with. Whereas, as you've just said, define health, or what does health look like to you? And here I am preaching about it, and I don't even have an answer for you. All I know is that you know exactly what that means. Now, whether you want to do it or not, or whether you have the bravery to maybe go against the grain in which your current socio-status aligns with, that's a different question, and we're starting to get a bit lower than skin deep, and that's the levels that I'm very interested in. But this is why we're getting far away from it, because the whole industry is getting quite saturated, going more and more online, and people want things yesterday. And realistically, for the masses, what's going to appeal more? I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but you do this, I'm pretty sure you'll feel better.
Yeah.
I can't say you're going to feel this better or this much better or 20%. Or follow my calorie control diet for 6 weeks, lose 10% body fat and your bench will go up by 20 kilos. Oh, well, I can actually get my head around that. I'll take that. So, this is what's sort of, it's kind of ironic about personal training and the health and fitness industry in general, really. Actually, everybody already knows what they need to do. You can see that when people set their own New Year's resolutions. No one says I want to drink more this year. No one says I'm going to quit the gym this year. Everybody knows exactly what they should do. So on a kind of fundamental, superficial level, that isn't the issue. People talk about education and people aren't quite sure what they're putting in their bodies. That's fucking bollocks. People know that a Mars bar isn't as good as a banana. Fuck the calories, but everybody knows that. But there's some deeper level of sort of consciousness that's going on there to make people make those decisions and perpetually make those decisions that then lead to, ironically, calling someone like me. So, yeah, I'd love to give you, like the dictionary definitions: so physical, mental, social. That's all well and good, but then you'd have to define that. And, I think that's where these spaces really start to come into their own, because if you can get a physical workout, that releases all the serotonin and the endorphins that give your brain a little kick, and see some friends, well then you're going pretty well to tick a few boxes. But the only absolute that I would put in there is that exercise is king. Absolutely king. It's one of our fundamental biological needs, and the body is actually designed to cope with stress, but it's designed to cope with stress that it is been adapted to or evolved to deal with. So the body can cope with the stress of exercise. It needs it. It actually needs it. All the internal processes require that stress, and the more that you can put yourself under, albeit in a controlled environment, stress that the body can cope with, the more you teach the body to bend, and the more it can bend, the less it will break. It's designed to deal with exercise. Brilliant. So expose it to that. This is why cold showers and cold water immersion is becoming more of a thing now, because the body is fine with coping with that stress. It is a stress, but it has every internal process that it needs to deal with that experience. And the more that you expose it to it, the easier you can deal with stress. The body is not designed to stress with an email from a fuckwit asking for an overdue invoice. And that's the kind of stress that we're dealing with. And because we're not actually exposing us to any of our biological stress needs, we are then unable to cope with modern day stresses that are thrown our way.
It's funny how people will prioritise responding to that email first. It's extremely, well, funny is not the word, but it really is really quite a strange world that we live in. But it's one that's been created around us. It's a story that's been perpetuated generation after generation. And go on anybody's phone and look at their screen time. It's going to definitely be 45 minutes, which is all you need to work out, but it's going to be a fuckload more than that. But let's just say it's definitely going to be 45 minutes, and people are still talking about not having time. And I have conversations with people all the time who are sort of umming and ahhing about the gym, and after a little bit of chat, they just say, look, I'm just not in a place right now to my health isn't a priority. People say that shit, and I understand. I get where they're coming from. They've got a lot on. They could have a fledgling business. They could have a new a young family. They could have all sorts of things going on. So actually, it's almost legitimate what they're saying, but we must break it down. And really strip it back and be like, do you get what you're saying right now? That fledgling business that you're concentrating on will completely capitulate if you do. That young family that's relying on you will be fucked if you are. But it's just it's a story that our society, accepts. And, culture is a very, 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 very powerful thing, and that is what our culture has been set up
to do. You know, I do feel like it's getting better, but I could also be in a little echo chamber of thinking that it's getting better, because ultimately I work in a gym and people within here, at least, their attitudes are changing completely, and funny enough, their lives are improving. But you know, don't underestimate the power of culture. I mean, we went from shaking hands and hugging to 1 month of COVID and everyone leading with their elbow, you know, and then a month after that, no one wanted to get near you. You know, it's why you're deemed weird if you don't drink, as opposed to do drink. That's culture. It's why we eat pigs and share our bed with dogs. That's culture, nothing else. You know, so it's very, very powerful. And if it's set up against health, which it basically is, you know, you've got to go quite hard against the grain in you know, to change that. And you know, life's hard enough. You know, how many currents do you want to swim against? We're already swimming against enough. But unfortunately, you know, the bliss on the other side, that's the bit of the story that doesn't really kind of get enough airtime. You know, that I know that half an hour that you suffer, if you like, it's not a great word to describe it, because that's not what's going on, but that half an hour that you dedicate to yourself or to your health or whatever in the gym relieves so many others, and it makes you so much stronger against the other currents that you're swimming against. And I just wish that was more widely understood and accepted.
Well, we were kind of talking about this morning, weren't we? Like the amount of stress that is in everyone's lives, and what they ultimately want is that fulfillment from the stress, but the way that they manage that stress is to create more.
Yeah.
So they end up in almost like a vicious circle.
Yeah, completely and utterly. I mean, you know, I one of my sort of fundamental pillars of my message is around alcohol, for two reasons. The fact that it's not more within the industry perfectly sums up how fucked the whole thing is. That I don't hear the only thing I hear about alcohol within the industry is swapping from beer to a lower calorie alternative. You know, and if you think that's the answer, you have got no idea how this drug works, pal. You know, so someone's got to say it. And the other one is that, you know, life is hard enough, and the story is that this makes it easier, and it's actually making it harder. It's almost like a cheat. You know, if you not drinking is so infected our culture that not doing it is almost like a cheat code. That again is also becoming more widely accepted, but it's like still got a fucking long way to go, bearing in mind it's pretty logical.
Well, that's actually a really good point to move on to ask these main questions of what I wanted to talk to you about today. So the past, the present and the future of the health and fitness industry. Let's start with the past. What's good, what's bad, what's ugly?
So I got in the game in 2010. So in terms of the industry, you know, I can't give a massively accurate representation. Even now, you know, if you were to sort of name the most famous gym goer ever, it'd probably be Arnold Schwarzenegger. So for most of, you know, because no one, you know, when have gyms actually been around from about his time, 70s? No one fucking went to the gym in the 50s, did they? They weren't even a thing. So sort of from the 70s and all the way up until pretty recently, the kind of poster boy, or the kind of image of fitness was essentially bodybuilding and split training, and focusing a lot around image for you know, consciously or subconsciously. That was the thing, you know, whether you were bodybuilding or not, most people were still running to look like a runner or to lose weight or whatever. However, right at the start, if we count my kind of introduction to it right at the start as sort of part of the past, I would say that the sort of the better part about it was that the internet was around, of course, but social media hadn't really boomed, and so personal trainers weren't competing against every other personal trainer on the planet. They were competing against maybe other personal trainers on the gym floor or in the local area. And so really it just came down to whether or not you clicked with that person or not. No one was really selling any dreams. Online training wasn't really a thing. So, albeit there was, I'm sure, an army of fuckwits like there is in every industry, I think the morality behind it and its core values were probably a bit stronger. Because why wouldn't they? Like if you're competing with 10 other personal trainers and actually most of them are pretty good people who understand that you're going to get fuck all in 6 weeks, and then some other arsehole is trying to sell it. Well, it doesn't take too many people to do it and realise that nothing happens before they get found out. And so it is quite where my career has kind of fallen is quite an interesting continuum. So we've got the kind of pre-Instagram world, and then over the last probably 7 years, it's just completely infected our society. And because of that, now your PT on the gym floor, or me or someone else, isn't just competing against 3 other PTs on the gym floor, or we're essentially competing for the attention of everyone against almost everyone via the online space, via Instagram and social media and all the rest of it. Via online coaching. Well, it's not online. It's not coaching. It's not PT. If you're online, I don't really know what you are. You're not a PT, obviously, because there's nothing personal about it. Like if you think you're helping someone via an email as much as you are in person, then you're off your nugget, mate. Yeah. But that's where this boom has come in. Lots of people are going online, probably because they're getting found out in person for being boring or shit or whatever it is. A few people have made it a success. People look up to them, and when you're dealing with the masses like you are on social media.
Ryan Seacrest here. When you have a busy schedule, it's important to maximize your downtime. One of the best ways to do that is by going to ChumbaCasino.com. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino games like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire that you can play for free for a chance to redeem some serious prizes. So hop on to ChumbaCasino.com now and live the Chumba life. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
It's much easier to gain notoriety and popularity by saying things that people want to hear and that are relatable than are actually helpful. So people love plug-in plays. People love things that don't really challenge the status quo so much, hence why there's so much chat. For example, like I mentioned earlier, don't drink. Well, no, hang on. Obviously, I'm fucking going to drink. It's bank holiday weekend. And then, there's someone else that's coming out and saying, how do you negotiate bank holiday while still drinking and eating everything you want without affecting your fat loss goals? Which, of course, is complete nonsense and in reality isn't going to happen, but is a more appealing process, a more appealing option. And so that's kind of where it is now. And so the message has become it's pretty blurred. It's incredibly damaging. People think it's all starting to click, this fat loss and calorie deficit culture that we've created. At the start, it was kind of like, oh, the pennies dropped. They're right. You do need to be in a calorie deficit to burn fat. Good. I'm glad we've sort of sorted that out. But can we move on now? Because we actually, it's not it's not the fundamental issue. It's the fundamental to fat loss, but fat loss isn't the fundamental issue to health, the nation's health, some individuals' health, whatever.
So moving on to the present then. We've touched on this already a bit. And we'll then transition to the future, but now in the present, what's good, what's bad, and what's ugly? You see in person, you see online.
So what's good is that functional fitness. This is more of the fitness side of the health and fitness than anything else. Functional fitness, i.e. training for a reason other than to change the way you look, is a thing now. Is a thing, and I would like to think it's not going anywhere. And love or hate CrossFit, it's basically CrossFit's fault. Now, we're not a CrossFit gym, but are we heavily influenced by CrossFit? Yes. Would we have opened a place and done this sort of training before CrossFit? No. But more importantly, the backbone to it is, it's not about coming in here to lose a stone for your holiday, which is basically what exercise has always been wrapped up with. It's just about expressing and celebrating what you can do, what your body is capable of, and enjoying all the transcendency benefits to that, high self-esteem, confidence, proving that little voice in your head wrong that says you can't do it. That's great. What's bad? Actually, it's a contradiction. Functional fitness is on the way up. However, we've almost created this, entirely via the online space, this what I'd call fat loss industry, which is, in my opinion, completely separate to health and fitness, because fat loss has nothing to do with health or fitness. It's an equation, calories in, calories out. Good for you, but you're basically a fucking posh maths teacher right now, or a sort of simple physician. And the methods and the messages and the narratives and the sort of techniques, if you like, that centre around this part of it, the fat loss, they're incredibly damaging. Now, they seem quite good up front. Everyone's, 1 in 2 people are obese, so surely fat loss should be quite high up on the agenda, blah, 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 blah. But, as I said, if it comes down to an equation, calories in, calories out, that's where this bollocks like a G&T is better than a banana because it has less calories. This is why people talk about, say, NEAT is more important than going to the gym, because you burn more daily calories through, just for those that don't know, NEAT stands for non-exercise activity thermogenesis, i.e. just moving around in your day-to-day life. So just if you are a bit more active, you'll burn more calories because you'll only burn 10% of your daily calories in the gym. That's where that comes from. It's all very sort of superficial stuff, technically that's true. But I'm telling you right now, parking slightly further away from your office is not going to change your life anywhere near as much as busting your ass in a gym early in the morning 6 days a week. It's just not. Everything is going to fall into place. In fact, the analogy I would use is that 90% of a gin and tonic isn't gin. Only 10% of a gin and tonic is gin, but that's the thing that makes it cost £7.50 and makes you buy it. If they had no gin in it, people would not want it, and definitely wouldn't pay £7.50. I mean, it's fucking bizarre that people would pay more with depression in it than they would without it, but that's, the fucking world we live in. We're dealing with a very superficial problem in a very superficial way, and we're not really getting beneath the surface to help or to explain or to support people as to what led the public to needing to lose fat in the first place. Swapping from Diet Coke to Coke, technically great. It's not actually breaking any habitual behaviour really that led to this conclusion. Swapping from olive oil to the 1 cow spray. It's so, the issue is not people pouring too much olive oil over their fucking roasted veg. It's what they're cooking in the olive oil. It's what, it's nothing to do with that. It's the fact that they're not cooking from home at all because they're stressed off their bonds. They're getting in at 8:30 and within 2 clicks they can reorder what they just ordered on Uber Eats, having not gone to the gym that day because they didn't have time. And then why would you spend an hour, or why would you spend 45 minutes cooking a healthy meal from scratch at 8:30 at night if you've done nothing else in the day to benefit your health? It's something we talk about consistency quite a lot. suppose we talk about intensity quite a lot. You hear all these sorts of things, particularly consistency. But something we never talk about is momentum. And you see it in sport all the time. You see it in all walks of life. Momentum is incredibly important. And without your pillars, without your exercise, it's very, very difficult to build that momentum and for it to then lead into other positive habitual behaviours. And I do think it will go full circle. It's relatively new, this whole sort of everyone saying calorie deficit over and over again, and I understand that actually it was quite refreshing at the start, because people did used to say stupid things like eat fat to burn fat, and it was quite...
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Confusing, and it was almost like people were playing golf and weren't really sure whether you were supposed to get more shots or less shots, and like someone's cleared it up and it's great now. But you don't get good at golf by just saying again and again, get the ball in the hole and less shots, you fucking idiot. You've got to learn how to just play each shot in various different ways. And so it's great if these fat loss coaches were football managers. At half time they would say you've got to score more goals than net, and they'd be like, well, that's great, but how? Well, that's not my area of expertise. Sorry, I'm just telling you've got to score more goals than them, otherwise you'll probably lose. Whereas health is saying, well, they're killing us through the middle, so we need to just change our formation, and we need to play more compact, and you guys need to get tighter, and the wing backs need to, or whatever it is, which is ultimately how that's what they do. Alex Ferguson didn't win titles for 20 years by just telling the boys over and over again, score more goals than them, which is essentially what the message is right now. But I believe it's going to come full circle, like lots of things do, and people are going to see through it, and enough people's lives are going to be fucking destroyed from MyFitnessPal and counting calories and thinking that swapping from wine to vodka slimline is going to do it, realising it doesn't, before we go into another new space where health is finally put at the centre of what we're trying to do.
And what do you think that looks like then? What's the future of health and fitness teed up to be in your eyes?
Well, it's certainly not teed up at the minute. It's in a big old fat divot. But I think over time we'll get there. I think, as I just said there, that if the goal isn't health, or if health isn't at the centre of the goal, whatever it is trying to be achieved is going to break down, and therefore superficial goals or objectives like fat loss, or even muscle gain or strength gain, these are all actually, these don't really scratch the surface. They're not really, the world hasn't got a physical and mental health epidemic because people can't bench their body weight, or people are stressed because they can't bench their body weight. There's a much deeper level to all this. So I just believe once, and like I say, momentum, culture, all these things are very powerful. Once we become a society where health is at the centre, not fat loss, I just I can't even believe that these people call themselves personal trainers. I mean, it's sometimes, honestly, probably once a day, I go on Instagram or whatever, and I see someone like, I don't know, James Smith with like 1 million followers, and I actually have to like sigh out loud that we share the same profession, or that he calls himself a PT as well, and so do I. It makes me quite depressed. I have to just move on sharpish because it's making my life much harder. So I just see a world where basically COVID showed us quite a lot about how important health is. I mean, it's amazing how quickly we're forgetting, but nonetheless, it was a wake-up call to most. More and more young people are staying away from alcohol. They're seeing the effect it's had on the generation above them. It's not weird for 17, 18-year-olds now to not be interested in alcohol. And I think the future, or I should say the attitudes that hopefully people will adopt in the future are that of genuinely health is everything, and why would I do that night if it's going to make me feel like that tomorrow? Why wouldn't I exercise? As opposed to all these other narratives where why would you get up and train? It's all going to start flipping. Alcohol's going to be the new smoking, and it is going to be, like at the end of the week, one of the fundamental parts of people's conversation is going to be how's training going. And if they say I don't train, it's going to raise a few eyebrows. That's where I see it. I think we've just been, you can see it in all walks of life as well. Like, people are finally starting to wake up to the fact that the planet's on fire. It's on the tip of everyone's tongue. Whether it's working or not, we won't go into today. But it's very, very normal now for people to be very conscious about using plastic bottles. Finally, it's kind of made it into the mainstream. It's not weird anymore to say, can I have the vegan menu? And every restaurant has one. Whether it's right or wrong, again, that's not for today. But the world is starting to get like that, and I think health and fitness, it will all go with it. We have a sort of circle of society and normality, and normality in inverted commas, and the sort of the standards of society, and then you have a few things that can kind of put you on the outside, and you only need one of them to put you on the outside. So you don't need to be teetotal and vegan and train early in the morning and whatever else. You only need to one of them before you're on the outside. But if you're already on the outside, well, fuck it, I may as well explore all this other stuff, because I've taken a step back now, and I've looked into this, and they say that processed meat is a type 2 carcinogenic, which is asbestos, and people get their house inspected for it once a year, and if they find it, they spend £15,000 on an extension, and people are still thinking, so again, go back to momentum. Things like drinking is very, very social. If 6 out of the 10 people who are out are sober, the other 4 are just not going to get pissed on their own. They'll either create their own group and be stubborn, but I don't think that's what will happen. People just, that's not going to happen. If you're the only one in your friendship group who doesn't get up early, you're going to be on a completely different rhythm to life. So you're going to either, it's like a good peer pressure. What are you going to do? Just stay sub, and you're going to hang out at 10 o'clock at night when everyone else is in bed because they've got a session in the morning, because trust me, they're not missing out on anything. Nothing good happens after 9 p.m. You may as well just fucking go to bed and call it a day. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to take one more generation to sort of flush it all out, but I see it happening. To be honest, we have our hands tied. We actually don't have a choice anymore. Human health is on a massive downward spiral. The planet's health is on a massive down. We can't cope doing things how we're doing them, and so some fairly.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Major changes are happening, and I always say, be the sun, not the wind. You can talk about it as much as you want, and I do talk about it. But the reason why I've converted 30 people out of our community to go sober is because they've never seen me have an off day, and that's not because I'm superhuman, or it's not because I never happen, but it's mainly because I'm not kicking myself in the balls every weekend, and they want a little bit of it, and they try it, and if you can see it, you can be it. And we as personal trainers have a huge responsibility to at least try our best to explore. It goes back to what I was saying before. People want to be more relatable than they want to be helpful. Like you can be relatable to your PT without having to go on the piss with them, or without having to discuss how they are also struggling to train. You can relate to them in every other way, but health and fitness. I love my mum. Yeah, you love your mum too. We both love our mums. We're going to go over for a roast for Mother's Day. That's really nice. Or we both, play tennis or whatever. Not both. Oh fuck me, I'm so hanging from Saturday night. If not even our personal trainers can embody health, then who the fuck can? And who is going to get this ball rolling? If I went to a golf coach and said I can't stop topping it off the tee, and he said, me too, I'd be like, well, what the fuck am I paying you for then? Jesus, even you, brilliant, so I don't, obviously the internet's not going anywhere. I don't think Instagram's going anywhere, but I do think this whole very kind of attractive online coaching bubble is going to finally burst. It's not going to work for enough of them that they're going to leave, and they're going to just leave us non-sellout trainers or gym owners to just actually crack on. And the thing that's going to really change this is not one online personal trainer with 10,000 clients, but 150 ADV HQs all over the country dealing with 150 people at a time, but really dealing with them, not delivering them bodybuilding sessions via an email with a macro split and a calorie target.
What would you say then, Lubsy? Your top pieces of advice would be to people, just generally in life, but everyone wants to be happier. Yeah. Everybody wants to feel that connection. I think everyone thinks that they need to be healthier, but don't necessarily want to be healthier. Yeah. We've kind of touched upon that. But yeah, I suppose just general advice and advice related to health and fitness, like what messages do you give to people, and what do you think people need to keep hearing more of?
So, after basically saying for quite a while that there are no kind of plug and plays, I can guarantee you that your life will improve. This is where the subjective versus objective comes in. I can't give you a percentage. I can't say it's going to improve by this much. I can't say you're going to get a raise or you're going to lose this. One of the first things you do in the day is exercise. You give up alcohol and you train. Well, I've already covered that. So there's two. It's basically only two things. Your life will dramatically improve. It's how can it not? I need to hear some sort of justification how it can't. The only downside I can think is you're in a relationship where you're used to staying up late and boozing, and one of you decides to get up early and train and not booze, and now you have this massive fragment, and it turns out your relationship was based on something that was a bit shit, and that's the kind of. So it's again, it's a bit like the relatable versus, oh no, you can train after work. Yeah, you're not going to change your life by training after work. You're just not. You are just not. If you have always done it from a kid, fine, you don't have an issue. But if you are not training right now and you need a change, it is not going to change by training after work. Eventually, like if you've waited until your adult life to take care of something as fundamental as your health, eventually something during the day is going to get in the way, good, bad or indifferent. You're going to have to answer an extra email, you're going to miss the class, or it's going to be a particularly hard day, you're not going to have the energy. Or someone says, do you want to go for a business lunch? And all of a sudden they open a bottle of wine, you don't have the bravery to say no. Now you're pissed at 4 o'clock, you're obviously not going to go then. The first thing, or one of the first things people have to do is exercise. It's not a message that's emitted very often, because gyms need members, and the go-to time to go to the gym is in the evening. That's the easy part, but the whole fundamental flaw to that is that the whole business of going to the gym and changing your life in general isn't easy. So if your first point of call is to find the easiest option to do something hard, it's not going to happen. It's, you know, you almost get two things for the price of one. You know, you've just installed discipline, you've just installed a healthy circadian rhythm, and now you're exercising. And not only that, if the first thing you do, what did I read the other day? The first thing that, it's something like the first thing that releases endorphins into your brain that day is the thing that will keep them coming throughout the day. So if the first thing you look at is your phone, you're going to keep going back to your phone all day. If the first thing you do is have a cigarette, you're going to smoke all day. If the first thing you do is exercise and you do something positive for yourself, well, that is when you can start to subconsciously make decisions of, I'm not going to go to Greg's for lunch. I'm fucking better than that. Are you joking? Busted miles on an assault bike. They're going to have something better than a fucking vegan sausage roll and a caramel latte, thank you. You know, all these little things start to change, and they start to add up in these behaviours that are all basically come back to doing what's best for me so I can be best for everyone else. You know, they start to happen. And so, yeah, it's exercise. Fuck your knee. Yes, it's important, but you're going to change your life by exercising. You know, I heard someone say the other day, you'd be amazed what you can achieve with a high step count. Bollocks. Absolute bollocks, mate. I'm telling you right now. You know, that is just a classic, I can walk more. You know, I know people that walk around in their fucking living room when they're on 9,000 steps trying to get to 10,000 steps because they think it's that important. You know, why didn't you just get down and fucking train, bro? You know, but so it makes me irate sometimes on it. It's just stop. Look, I need. But yeah. So I just think they're completely and utterly fundamental. And then, you know, the alcohol thing. I mean, it's kind of really, it's unnecessarily inexplicable. You know, it's like you fucking know that's doing nothing for you, and ultimately, yeah, it might have you by the neck, either societally or it's a fucking powerful drug. It could have you. Like there's no shame in admitting that. You know, the world has basically been designed for you to get addicted to it. You know, you can't buy someone a fucking birthday card without it relating to getting pissed or whatever. But you know, you're setting a very low ceiling on your health if alcohol is a regular occurrence. But you know, I talked about people I know earlier about their expectations and their reality matching. You know, that's massively important. If someone is in a line of work where they quite often take out clients on a Thursday and they end up drinking at 2, and then it's the weekend. Hey, look, if they wake up Monday understanding why they're a bit groggy and not looking at the world or scratching their head why, well, you know, that's not really a problem. It's when the expectations are completely different from the reality and the connection can't be made. You know, why do I feel anxious all the time? Why do I feel tired? Why have I got brain fog all the time? Why, you know, I'm paranoid. What's going on? I'm never usually worried about this, but I am. Why am I getting nowhere in the gym? I used to find these sessions really easy, and now I'm absolutely nowhere. You know, that's when just a bit of pretty basic reality just needs to be hit home, to be honest.
Yeah, sure.
And yeah, so they're my pillars, and you know, I wouldn't go online for a million reasons in a million years. But if I was to go online, you know, with that message, I think I'd struggle because it's, you know, that's a difficult one. But you know, do you actually want help, or do you want to just fucking feel a bit better, but essentially just carry on doing what you're doing? You know, and that's kind of totally cool if that's what you want to do. But I go to bed every single night knowing that whatever I'm projecting, you know, on a micro sense, either with an individual or a small group or via social media, is actually helpful. Whether or not people like it, that's completely different. You know, the slogan in my bio is I'd rather rub you up the wrong way of truth and butt you up with bullshit. And I suppose that comes back from being lucky enough to build a business in real life, not online,
Yeah.
dealing with real people and seeing that it actually works and that people respond incredibly well to someone actually giving a fuck about them. You know, you telling someone, I'll start that sentence again. If someone has called a personal trainer and they essentially get fed shit that they want to hear, well, that isn't just that, you know, they've been getting fed that shit enough. That's why they called you, bro. And I know it's difficult because you've got to put food on the table and you don't want to upset anyone, you don't want them to leave, but you've got to take a step back and ask, what are they there for? Why have they come to you in the first place? And what are you doing there? And it's a bit of a kind of give an inch, take a mile. And this is mainly why I have this approach, you know, because of course there are exceptions to all of these things. You know, yes, you probably could have a couple of glasses on a Friday and it wouldn't affect too many things. But me as the personal trainer, I am not going to encourage that, because if I give someone an inch, I've seen it happen time and time again, this is how I've come to this conclusion. If I give an inch, people take a mile. If I say, it's Friday, you've done really well this week, enjoy some wine. They don't hear some wine, they hear 3 bottles of wine. And then they're pundit, because my personal trainer said I could have some wine, so I'm going to go fucking apeshit. I remember when I was a kid. I remember when I was a kid, and my coach said, "Oh, you look tired. Go home and have some fish and chips." I had fish and chips every night that week. I'd never really thought about fish and chips, and then all of a sudden, this guy who I really respected and really liked said fish and chips, and I was like, "Fuck yeah, fish and chips! I'm gonna do that." You know, so if your driving instructor, you know, said, you know, yes, you should be at 10 to 2, but to be honest, when I'm in my own, I just wrap my novel around it and drive like that. You know, do you really think when you're on your own, you're going to stay at 10 to 2? Not even your driving instructor is encouraging good habits. So how is any of them going to rub off onto you? So it's kind of the deal you make with the devil. It's kind of the side of the sword that sometimes I don't like all that much. I almost have to be a kind of devil's advocate, but it's what has to happen really for progress to elicit any sort of progress, because, you know, the world is already trying its best to make you unhealthy. If your personal trainer isn't doing everything in their power to combat that and to be the antidote to that, then literally nothing is going to happen. And that's essentially what is happening. Nothing is really happening.
Lubsy, thank you so much for your time, mate. Could you just let people know how they can find out a little bit more about you, follow you? Because you've got some really good, really interesting and very entertaining messages across your platforms. What's the best way that they can check those out for themselves?
Easiest way is Instagram at PT Lubs. Got a bit of TikTok, but that's for the fucking teenagers. I can't be asked for this. So just stick with the gram. Stick with the gram at PT Lubs.
So for everyone listening, I'll put that in the show notes below. But I'd just like to say thank you again for your time, mate, and keep pushing forwards. We'll get there eventually.
Authenticity will win in the end. It's a long old road. That's one of the first messages we learn, right? Just wait. Don't take that marshmallow now. There's 2 around the corner. Just fucking wait. I'm waiting for mine, but I'm going to get them.
Top man. Thanks a lot.
Cheers, brother.
Thanks for listening to the 40th episode. We hope you enjoyed the show. It would really help us out if you could please leave a rating and or review on whatever platform you're listening on. Be sure to check out our website, extremesportsperformance.com, that has details about our consultancy services, our in-person and online support, our in-person and online coaching, our in-person and online education, our media pages, our contact details, and how to subscribe for free to stay informed about company news and updates. Join our growing social media community on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube and Twitter. Links to these can be found at the top and bottom of all pages on our website and via any search engine. Until next time, take care.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No